Hello everyone, MarkyJoe1990 here, and welcome to the final submission of Ragefest 3. What is it? The Corruption of Roy, created by me. So anyway, this submission, unlike most submissions for Ragefest, wasn't intended to be very funny. It was, well, obviously it's trying to be funny with this opening, but overall the story was meant to be taken seriously, and for some people, I guess it's an okay story. I don't really feel that it's really well written. And hi, Derpy the problem with my writing is that it feels very stilted, and I think this is because just I don't really socialize a lot in real life. So, and when I do, I'm like the most awkward person to talk to. But yeah, that's only one of the problems. The story has some, I guess you'd say, plot holes. Like, I intended this story to essentially be one of those stories where, oh, we don't fill in all the holes because we want you to do it. But how effective that was is up to the viewer. I think for most people, they were like, oh, this is a great story, but I'm like, no, it's not. So this beginning prologue essentially summarizes FE6 in a very snarky way and mentions that Roy marries Sophia instead of Lilina, which I know many of you Lilina fanboys and fangirls are going to, like, piss all over your computer screens now in hatred. Anyway. Man, it's been a while since I've done anything Fire Emblem related. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to show all the text in the game. Don't worry your panties. I'm not Astraluna Saul, who just skips everything and is like, oh yeah, I don't give a fuck. That's totally how he acts. And I'm not going to be like Mr. Fretchin, who's like, oh my god, I hate everything. Wow. Wow, that was really dickish of me. I'm sorry to both of you. Oh my god, they're going to hate me forever for that. Anyway, I need to get back on topic. So yeah, Sophia finds herself in a prison cell. Kath rescues her. Sophia's like, what the hell's going on? And Kath's like, you don't know? Well, I'll tell you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not gonna tell you yet until stuff happens. Anyway, yeah, this is not really a perfect example of stilted dialogue. Oh, this part really kind of annoys me here. So the guard's like, oh, what are you doing here? And Kath's like, shit, I should have talked to Sophia faster like I originally intended. But since I'm inconsistent, let's blah. And right there she says, oh yeah, let's act while he's flustered. Why would the guard be flustered is beyond me. I mean, I understand that he's, like, afraid that Sophia's aware of what's going on or something, but, like, I don't get that. There's just too many questions raised by that cutscene with the guard. And again, it's up to the viewer's interpretation. I know some people are going to be like, oh, this is just a good story, Mark. Don't worry your pretty little face. But I just don't think it's that well written. Anyway, you have to get that specific chest because the bottom left one has a game over in it. If you want to see what it does, you'll have to watch someone else's video because I don't show it here. Anyway, this is a talk conversation between Sophia and Kath. It's basically just small character exposition. Like, in this hack, I actually felt it was very important to put in as much dialogue as I can, like, between different characters, so that I could properly flesh them out and stuff, because, you know, if you want a good story, you need to flesh out your characters. And this actually, I felt I had an interesting take on Kath, actually. I don't think it's mentioned here yet, but she's basically like, oh, I don't enjoy stealing, but I kind of have to because life sucks. And right here, she's like, ever been homeless? And then she mentions this. I think it's kind of neat. I'm sure some people would be like, what the fuck? How do you build a treehouse all by yourself? But you know what? That's part of the magic. I'm sure there's a way to do that. I mean, I wouldn't put it beyond one person to build a treehouse on their own. It probably wouldn't be that great. I also love what Kath says right here. It's like, no, you can't come with me because then that's like saying a big sign. It's like, Kath's here, fellas! And then she questions Sophia's hair length, which I go out of my way to mention its exact length because fucking long hair fetish, and I have to mention it all the time. And I actually do kind of justify why Sophia has it that way. She basically says, like, oh, it's light and it's cozy, and I just like it this way. But yeah, decent character exposition. You'll never find out what's in the top right chest. It's a torch. But you will find out what's in the mid up left one. Oh yeah, and when you kill that guard, that triggers a cutscene right here. It's like, oh, now that we're in a safe spot, we can talk things over and shit. Anyway, instantly right away we bring up a big twist. Foray attacks Ostia. Now, I understand that Ostia is extremely strong. Like, they're the strongest in the Lycia territories. But let's not forget that at this time, it's being ruled by Lilina, who's been pampered by Hector a bit. And she's kind of naive and shit. Meanwhile, Foray is ruled by Roy, who everybody deems as a hero, and, you know, they just fucking love him. So, and plus, you know, some people are like, oh, we're unhappy with Lilina's ruling ship. So, yeah, you can pretty much make of it whatever you want. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can explain how Foray attacking Ostia is possible. At least in my opinion. Anyway, I gave Sophia the door key and the toast for a reason. And it's because I actually forgot to mention this, but this is a LTC run. If you don't know what that is, it's low turn count. Basically, I tried to clear part 1 in as few turns as possible. And while doing this, this actually gave me quite a bit of insight on my own level design. I learned that my character balancing isn't quite as good as I had hoped. Like, every character has a use, like, you will end up using all of them no matter what, because they are still useful in some way, but in terms of how much they contribute to the team, greatly varies. Like, Sophia is going to be your hands-down best unit. She has really good growth, she has really good bases, and the enemies level her up like fucking crazy. Not as much as Lilina does, who, by the way, that's the chick in the lower right. But yeah, Sophia's gonna be just your best unit, period. Kath is going to be extremely helpful in the first half, in part 1, basically, of this chapter. But once part 2 comes around, she's going to basically just be dead weight. Except for when she opens chests, which there are only 4 of them, and you only need 1 of them. So, it's really just meh. I'll talk about the other characters when we recruit them. This part, I actually thought this was an interesting way to shave off time on the turn count. Basically, I had Kath and Sophia go different directions. Sophia opens the chest with the chest key that she got. Then she takes care of the fighter while Kath continues to go and recruit Lilina, which, by the way, with the exception of one character, you can recruit any character with anybody. So, it doesn't matter who you use, so long as they talk to them. Like here. And a lot of times I actually gave separate recruitment conversations for each character. If you recruit Lilina with Sophia, you get a different conversation than you do with Kath. I don't know if I actually gave Lilina a different conversation with other characters, because I assumed that most players would recruit her before any of the others, because, you know, you see her right away, it's like, holy shit, I need to go get her. Even though they're, well, hang on, let me just collect my thoughts. There is a time limit on this chapter. It doesn't seem like that because, you know, no danger seems to be approaching the prisoners or anything, and you don't seem to be, you don't seem to need to rescue them at any given time. However, you do have a time limit, and you're basically required to do this fuck fast Because if you don't, then a whole bunch of other stuff is going to happen. It's going to slow you down, and then you have to deal with one of the worst things about Part 1. And we will not discuss him until later on. Actually, no, I'll discuss him now. On turn 38, Damus shows up, and he shows up with a bunch of female Myrmidons and female archers, whom he refers to as his harem. I don't think we actually see him in this LTC run, because I finished the chapter quickly enough. But, yeah, if he shows up, you'd better make, like, the fucking wind and run the hell away and finish the chapter. Because unless you're doing New Game Plus, you do not stand a chance against him. Though there is a trick to actually beating him without New Game Plus, so I guess I just contradicted myself. Hooray! I am a happy camper. Also, that steel lamp should give you a hint of what other characters we might be recruiting. I'll let you make some guesses right now. Oh man, it's fun time guessing with MarkyJoe1990, and I just burped while I spoke. So yeah, steel lance. Oh yeah, Sophia, she has really good bases and good growths. Kath has shit bases, and her growths are merely okay. Lilina's growths are okay, but she makes up for her okay growths and shitty, base stats with her just sheer leveling up speed. She gains far more experience than the other units. Unfortunately, when I say make up for this, I mean she doesn't make up for it at all, because, well, she doesn't, in a low turn count run, Lilina, you don't really have time to train Lilina. It costs too much time, and the payoff isn't good enough. She ends up, I guess, like, even if you train her up, she's still inferior to Sophia, statistically, because she'll have much better speed, she'll probably max out speed, and she'll get insanely high luck, and her magic will skyrocket. However, her HP growth and her defense growth are utterly shit, and those become very problematic in Part 2, where almost all the enemies can one-hit kill her, because holy shit, Part 2 is filled with strong enemies. Most of them are capable of one-hit or two-hit killing your units, so that should give you an idea of how ridiculous Part 2 is. I put Lilina on that stairway for a very specific reason, but we'll get into that later. Ta-da! It's Wendy! Now you know the secret of the mystery of the Mysterious Lance. The Mysterious Lance? Steel Lance, God. Anyway, yeah, Wendy's like, oh shit, looks like you're allied with Lilina. And then you immediately use Wendy to get her own Steel Lance. And then talk to the prisoner who she was just with, which is kind of hilarious, but I guess since she's able to get out, she should talk to him and be like, oh yeah, you know, you have this thing I need. And by thing, you'll see very quickly. Man, I'm spoiling the living shit out of everything by just mentioning that something's gonna happen. Oh man! Oh yeah, I also took the detailing time to actually give names to all the generic prisoners. This guy's name is Cedric. He's a guy. Anyway, where was I? I forgot where I was. Anyway, so yeah, this guy gives you an energy ring, as he says here. And he also mentions a mercenary named Shigid. Now, this is the character I was referring to earlier, who you can't recruit with just everybody. You need to use a specific character, and I won't reveal who it is until it actually comes up. And this general right here is a fucking ass. In a lot of my failed playthroughs, he would, like, I wouldn't see him, and then he'd just fucking pop out of the darkness and say, "Oh man! Pickle surprise, you're dead!" Ah, it was so fucking annoying. And as you can see, Sophia's already level 7. It's mainly because she fights so many of the enemies that she ends up so high leveled. Oh yeah, now I remember I was talking about before, the staircase that Lilina was blocking. The reason why I had her blocking is because a thief shows up there, and he, if I had let him spawn, it would have like, you need to get rid of the thief because he will open up the game over chest and fuck you over big time with an instant game over, so you have to kill him no matter what. Either that or just steal his chest key, but, like, that would require Kath to be nearby, and that would take off a lot of time on my LTC run. So, basically, since Lilina isn't doing anything special, I had her block it. There you go! There's my logic and insight on my own chapter. You can recruit Lilina with Wendy, but if you didn't recruit her with, wait, no, I meant, you can recruit Wendy with Lilina, but if you don't, then you can have Wendy talk to Lilina afterward, and they'll have, like, a nice conversation. Here we have Clarine, who, like, who the hell likes Clarine? She's kind of a spoiled little brat. But then again, she does go through character development when you ever, like, speak to, Klein in FE6. Like, she talks about how she doesn't want to be a decorated person who only cares about beauty anymore. She wants to, like, travel the world and, like, be like Princess Jasmine and travel the world and stuff. And that's actually the justification why she's here. She traveled the world, you know, after being stubborn with her parents, which you would actually learn if you recruited her with Lilina. I don't know why you only get that information if you specifically have her speak to Lilina, but either way, she persuades her parents, oh yeah, I'm gonna travel the world, and, you know, since she was stubborn and they knew they couldn't stop her, they eventually just said, okay, we'll take some mercenaries with you. So she ended up in Ostia, found a whole bunch of guys, like, wounded, and was like, what the fuck? And then she got imprisoned by Foray dudes. Man, Foray is just filled with dicks in this hack. Then again, I do, like, explain, oh, we're just following orders later on in the hack, spoiler alert. Oh man, I am on a roll today. Also, that Iron Rune is important. Oh man, it's a character we've never seen in FE6! It's Shagid. He is the guy that Cedric was talking about earlier, Cedric being the civilian from earlier. You can only recruit him with Sophia. Oh man! And, basically, he's a character from my other hack that I wanted to make. He's actually part of the Wolfen Mercenaries from that hack. And hooray, we're gonna talk. This is probably the most hilarious conversation, by the way. But yeah, Shigid's from my Wolfen Mercenaries dude thing that never really took off, but it might take off someday if I ever get back into FE hacking, but as it stands, no. So, here, Sophia's like, oh yeah, I have an engagement ring. I can prove that I am Roy's wife. Though that opens up a plot hole here. How the fuck did she get that ring in the first place? You'd think that Roy would have disarmed her from it or something. But, like, I actually did want to explain that by saying, oh yeah, Kath gave it to her when she released her, like, oh yeah, I found this. I don't fucking need it, but you can have it. And Sophia's like, oh, it's my ring. But I never did it, so it just stands as a plot hole. Unless if you fucking crackpot theorists can think of something, which I'm sure you guys can. And I bet it'll be some sort of, like, symbolic bullshit. Anyway, even though it's already been shoved down Sophia's throat by Lilina that Roy is behind this, she still acts shocked when Shagid reveals this. I guess because she is still denying the truth or something. This will actually be a running theme in this hack, especially in part... like, at the beginning of part 2, she'll still act like, oh shit, I did not know that Roy was the antagonist. Even though it's so fucking plainly obvious. I mean, she isn't that fucking stupid. I don't portray her that stupidly in this. It's just that's how it came off to me. Anyway, this is like one of the few times Kath actually attacks something. And thankfully we get a level up from it. These soldiers actually have chest keys which you can steal to open up the chest. You don't want to open up that chest up there though. And I'll explain that later, but you can get those chest keys, you can get chest keys from the soldiers, but I'm going to be instead doing something else, which is a lot more black-handed. Wow, I have black hands now. I must be half African-American. Holy shit. Anyway, when Shigid made that, oh yeah, come over here, and Sophia's like, I sense a bad omen, that's your hint that there's ambush spawns here. Even though it's not exactly the most blatant hint, because, you know, from behind that door that we just went through, it would be kind of hard to see those staircases anyway, so you'd have to just magically figure it out on your own and be like, oh, so that's what Mark intended. Oh, Mark, you're such a kidder. Anyway, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I think at some point I'm going to move Wendy off of the staircase she's standing on. That's actually a very important detail. I think I do it on this turn. At this point of the chapter, all I'm really doing is just collecting loot and recruiting another character. There's one more character left to do, and yay, I moved Wendy off the chest. That's a very crucial thing to this whole LTC run, actually. You have to have Wendy go off that chest because... Wait for it. Sophia, come on. And right here. That thief has a lockpick. It has 6 uses, and you can steal it with Kath. This will save you a lot of time on your LTC run, because now you don't have to steal 6 chest keys from the thieves. You could just get the lockpick. And when you steal that lockpick, the thief stands still, so he blocks that spawn point for the rest of the chapter, unless you have him out of your vision range. Because if you do, enemies will still spawn there, even though he's standing on that chest. I mean, that staircase. Anyway, the chest right above the stairway is dangerous. If you don't go to this area fast enough, that thief will open up that chest and a mimic will pop out. You will never actually see a mimic in this playthrough, but it's a custom class I made up. It's just a chest with teeth and can breathe fire, really. And it's extremely dangerous. It has 10 movement, and it has a high crit rate. This chick doesn't give you very useful advice, unfortunately. What else is there to say? I guess I'll talk about, like, the other units. Wendy is fucking good. Like, honestly, she's probably the second best unit in this bunch, which is ironic, because she and Sophia were both the worst units in FE6. Now they're the best in this hack. They're probably followed by Shigid, because Shigid is crucial for destroying a set few enemies in one hit, because he gets a Sword Slayer later on. And by later on, I mean like 2 turns from now, I think. Kath is, as I said before, extremely handy because of part 1, basically. She steals stuff and opens chests. Sorry for clearing my throat. Clarine is going to be your healer, and just on principle alone, that makes her extremely handy. Fur is not going to be particularly useful, except for in part 2, and after she gets her, like, weapon of choice, I guess you'd call it. Because once she gets that, she's going to be really just good. She'll be able to pretty much one round kill most enemies, including a specific enemy in part 2 that you will be fighting a lot of, that only fear Fur. Oh yeah, that's Ruben. That chick is actually a trap. If you talk to her, Ruben shows up, you get a really freaky cutscene. I get the most hilarious reactions from everybody who sees that cutscene. Unfortunately, it's not shown here, but like, they always tell me, Mark, that's going to haunt my nightmares for weeks now. Anyway, what was I back on? Oh yeah. When Fear gets her weapon of choice, she will be able to one-round kill a whole bunch of enemies in part 2 that all the other characters cannot do. However, you need to give Fear the energy ring that you got earlier, otherwise she can't do it. She'll just leave the enemy with like a small bit of health left. Which is why I'm going to give her the energy ring. Now, as for the speed wing I got from Leela, I'm going to give that to Wendy because, again, it's a part 2 thing that she needs to take care of. That is absolutely crucial. Trust me, these steps are really goddamn important, because if you don't, part 2 is going to be so much harder than it should be for you. do not hesitate to use those stat ups, and I highly recommend giving them to Fear and Wendy. Most of the other characters won't really benefit from them. Sophia certainly won't, because she's not particularly fast, and she already has extremely high magic, so she doesn't need the energy ring. Giving her the speed wing, she'd be able to double some enemies, but she doesn't really need to, because she can just weaken the enemy with her Flux or Nosferatu Tome, which she will... I think she's already gotten, actually. I'm not paying too much attention. She can just weaken the enemy, and then Lilina, with her extremely weak magic, can just finish them off. So it's pointless to give her the speed wing, especially since she doesn't really get doubled by anything. She's fast enough to not get doubled. Unless you put her against specific enemies and have her equipped with the Nosferatu Tome, but, like, you're not gonna be doing that too much. Anyway, we open this door. We've pretty much gotten everything we need. Now it's all a matter of just getting rid of the last few enemies, getting their items, then rearranging our items so that they're in everybody's proper, they're in the appropriate places of their inventories, so that we're pretty much fully prepared for Part 2. And trust me, you want to have everything in your favor when Part 2 shows up. If you want to avoid Part 2 from being luck-based, you have to be fucking... You have to make sure you are just the most prepared person in the world. Because one mistake on Part 1, and you're gonna have a fucking horrible time. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm sorry. And that bolting tome will never be used, because Lilina doesn't get used much in this playthrough. And she only has a C rank in Anima, so it's not like she'll be able to use the bolting anytime soon. When I update this hack, I'm definitely going to buff up Lilina a bit. I'm probably going to make her halfway through the C rank, so that you just need to train her a little bit, and then she'll have the B rank that she needs to use the bolting tome. And there's the Astra Sword, which is the weapon of choice of Fear. You will be using that a lot. Basically, it functions as a slightly weaker version of a Brave Sword. A lot less accurate, but it's light as a feather. It doesn't give Fear any attack speed loss. So she can pretty much go full speed, like quadruple attack people with it. That's kind of why I named it the Astra Sword, because, well... Although normally the skill Astra from FE4 and FE9 would give you 5 hits, this achieves almost the same effect. You attack 4 times. Close enough, and plus it activates more often, so it makes up for it, you know? Anyway, this last turn is probably going to be very uneventful. It's basically just me opening the door. Oh man, this is so amazing! Let's see, did I miss anything about this part? Well, aside from the few traps, that's pretty much it. Anyway, that's it. Get ready for Part 2, which I don't know when the fuck I'm gonna do it, but it's gonna be fucking horrible. Later.